This is Carlos Harlow, and I have the pleasure this evening of interviewing Leon Timbo, and we're talking about his latest release here, what Love's All About. So we'll go ahead and just jump straight into it. But again, I just have to say, Leon, listen to your album, and it is amazing, and I will be buying it myself on Friday because I believe in supporting great music.
Wow, thanks, Carlos.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's amazing. I love it. It's real R&B. That's the best way I could put it after I listened to it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I was in reading your bio and your information, and I was doing some research on you. One of the things that I found really interesting about your career and how you got started is that you did grow up in a spiritual family, or grew up in the church, so to speak, but you didn't have any direct musical influences in your family. And I thought that was really interesting because a lot of R&B singers, soul singers, when you dig back into their upbringing, a lot of them always say, oh, okay, well, my mom was a singer, my dad was a singer, or my uncle or somebody. So how would you say that you got into singing, or what age did you really find a passion for it to say, okay, this is what I want to do professionally?
Well, I would have to first acknowledge the fact that music for my family was an articulation of a message. My dad, being a Kojic pastor, a Kojic elder, he was kind of the young elder in the group. He was the elder that couldn't quite squall or sing, but he was always the one that attracted the youth because of his message and relevance, and so my introduction to what church was from a very intellectual, clear, relevant perspective. And so I think because my family wasn't musical, and I just found this out, how to articulate this very recently, because my family wasn't necessarily musical, those nuances that you kind of get it around the environment, that you kind of get by being around that energy and developing it without even knowing. I wasn't privy to that space growing up, but what I was privy to was how the message associated with the music. And so it's always given me a perspective that says, okay, the message is the point and the music is the canvas, and they're to marry. The music is never to overshadow the message, and the message is never to outstep the music. So it has to marry. And that expression came to me because I think I had that handicap, if you will, growing up. So I understood gospel. My dad had Andre Crouch, 8 tracks, Hawkins, all that space that inspired me. I remember those times, but they didn't, the way I heard them was from a very lyrical perspective, and not necessarily from you hear that groove, or do you hear the way that beat goes, and that's real music. No, it was, do you hear what they're saying? What does it make you feel? Does it cause you to see that situation differently? Does it cause you to experience your own situation differently? And so I've kind of kept that. That's kind of been my bed to lay in as I've walked through my late blooming musical, career. So I didn't sing until I was 17. I didn't really understand. I believe my singing was even a spiritual experience. I prayed. It was a very deliberate, specific prayer. And, it's one of those, God, if you're there, hook a brother up. I really want to do this. Give me a little bit of Luther. Give me a little bit of Marvin Winans. And if you don't mind, just a little bit of John P. Key. Those are my references, So you give me a little bit of those guys, I think I'll be okay. And then from there, honestly, Carlos, I started hearing music differently. I started being able to articulate the notes. And then that's when I, connected with your James Taylors and then your Bill Withers, who were, very simple canvassing singer-songwriter guys. And because I wasn't musically driven initially, I went to the thing that attracted me the most, which was the message, and those guys just leaped out at me. And so I didn't necessarily find that in church per se, although the message of what I was bringing was a very spiritual one, and I felt like love was always, in front of it. I hope I'm not over answering your question, but that's why it was late, and that's why all of that that's why you're getting, the What Love's All About album after such a tenure of working and journeying through processes, because that's how I've heard it, and that's how I wanted to release it.
Wow. Well, as a fan of your music and of your album, I can definitely tell you God answered your prayer, because I could hear a little bit of John P. Key and Luther and everybody, Marvin Gaye. I could hear all of that on the album. So yeah, he was spot on. He answered it.
It was specific, bro. I tell you, it was.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, another artist that I wanted to talk about, because I found this interesting as well, is Tyrese. Doing the research, I saw that he's kind of, so to speak, credited as discovering you. So how did that come about, or how did you get involved with Tyrese musically?
Bro, I was as far from Tyrese as the East was from the West, and so I was doing my thing the way that I was doing it. I would be in some clubs, some poetry houses. I'm the guy at the poetry houses where everybody's doing their poetry, and I come in there with the guitar and I got my little song because it's supposed to have some poetry in it. That's me. I'm that guy. And so I did that in different cities, and I made sure I never overstepped that poetry scene. I made sure I never kind of made that poetry scene a musical scene. And so through that, I had done churches as well because of my faith and my spiritual background. And I was at Bishop Jake's church doing music, leading worship, doing the thing. And there's moments that I always wait on because I believe every moment has a sound. Every crowd, every assembling of people, every organized moment has a sound, and my heart wants to find it and articulate it and just kind of say, hey, this is what's here. And it was no different there at Bishop Jake's church, part of South there. And Tyrese happened to be in the audience. And I later understood that he had a meeting with Bishop Jakes and maybe talking about the movie or what they were looking to plan to do in the future. And I had nowhere near anything to do in the equation. I was somebody the church invited to come through. And so in the middle of that moment afterwards, he came back when I was kind of getting ready to go out and enjoy the rest of the service. And he said, man, I don't know what you just did in here, but I have a show tonight at the House of Blues, and I want that, what you did here, to do there.
Wow.
And so I was like, yo, we canceled our flights and we flipped some stuff and we was like, yo, this, I don't know what this is, but I'm tired. I want to go home. Potter's House did me well. I had no reason to still be here, but there was this thing that wanted that moment, and I was like, okay, here in the church, I got you, and I even got you if you put me in front of some artists, some artists that are singer-songwriters like myself, artists that can get behind the piano, and but Tyrese, that's a different kind of dude. Tyrese is the kind of dude that gets on stage and the shirt comes off. Tyrese is the kind of dude that in the middle of, that's a different level of R&B, and I was telling God, yo, my body not ready for that level of R&B. I don't know how we're going to make this work. And so, like I said, from the East to the West, bro, I was as far from Tyrese. So I would have never, if I was God, I would have never seen myself putting that thing together. But I realized, that I needed that space. There was some mentoring that needed to take place, and Tyrese was open, unbeknownst to me, he was open to be that mentor. And so from connecting on stage, hearing something very spontaneous, finding that moment, And that night at the House of Blues, being what it was, we really connected. And he then told me, if it's the last thing I do, I want the world, or as much of it as I can put you in front of, to hear and to know what I experienced. I just feel like that's my calling. You are my calling. And what do you do with that but respond and say, okay, let's see how far the rabbit hole goes. And so year after year, he put me in front of amazing people, from Quincy Jones to Kenny Babyface Edmonds, and then Babyface puts me in front of amazing people like, your Alan Thicke and your old Hollywood guys, and Barbara Streisand, and your David, what is his name? David, did the Celine Dion song, the producer. I can't remember his name now. I
David
remember
Foster?
David Foster. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting at David Foster's house because of Kenny, because he took the same initiative Tyrese took in terms of, the year prior, David Foster brought Michael Bublé into his private party, and so the next year Kenny had somebody to bring in. So he brought me in to do the private party. So those moments, these guys didn't have to do, but Tyrese spearheaded, that let's open this door for this guy. Let's give him this space. These guys need to hear him as much as he needs to be heard. And so with that, I learned a lot about my voice in the studio, because I was a live guy, because I was always about the performance. To get into that cold studio, that cold room, and get behind that mic and create the space that live energy just kind of hands you haphazardly. Good energy just comes haphazardly on stage, whereas in the microphone, in that cold studio with people looking at you with dead stares, waiting on magic to happen, if you don't know that animal, you can't get that animal. And so Tyrese walked me through that process. And I definitely credit him for understanding how to articulate relevance behind the mic. So those spaces will never change. It doesn't matter how far this stuff goes. I'll never forget the grace that was given to me by God through people that gave me the opportunity to have a platform.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, one thing that I thought immediately when I listened to your CD, and then I heard about Tyrese and everything, I know with his last album, one of the big things he was pushing was getting back to real R&B. And that was one of the themes that just kept resonating with me when I heard this album, is that, it's real. It's really kind of like a gospel R&B. That's kind of the better or more proper way I should explain it. But, it's just really soulful. I feel like your music has a really soulful sound, which is something that, honestly, for me as a fan of R&B music, is missed, because when you turn on the radio now, it's just watered down R&B, or it's everybody's trying to get the hottest rapper on their song or something like that, just because they think it's going to be a hit, not because it makes sense. So I just wanted to get your thoughts. What do you feel like R&B's current state is in, or what are your thoughts on the current state of R&B right now?
I never underestimate the necessity of crisis. And what I mean by that is, it's not until we sometimes fall, not until we know what dirt tastes like, then it's not until we've hit bottom, then we're able to believe again and be again and grow again, and I think that's where we are. So to identify the state with the perspective of it's not working, everybody's copying everybody else, and everybody's using auto-tune, and all of this is happening. I welcome this state that we're in, because I believe from this state there is a sound that people refuse, and they're hungry for. They refuse to not hear, and they're hungry for. So in the day of your Donny Hathaways and in the day of your Marvin Gaye's and in the day of your Bill Withers you needed every last one of things, and none of those strings ever crossed each other because Stevie Wonder had a world that nobody else could articulate but him. And Donny Hathaway had a world that nobody else could articulate but him. And you needed the color and the flavor of all of those pieces. And I believe R&B is in the perfect, I believe soul music and R&B is in the perfect state to resurrect that space again, because we are tasting dirt. We are realizing, okay, albums aren't selling. All we're doing is making popular things that don't go far. And we are ready for this resurgence, this renaissance, if you will. So I think we're in the best of times and the worst of times, but I cannot just only call it the worst of times. I think we're ready to hear a Leon Timbo album and other artists who have identity and DNA that is unique and necessary and a color that the world needs to hear.
Wow. It is amazing. And I'm sure for everyone that's listening, as you all can hear, I mean, even in your conversation, Leon, I think, you're just a very, very deep person, very deep. I can definitely pick that up. And you have some really pretty deep quotes out there, too, that I was reading. And one of them that I really love and just wanted to ask you to elaborate on, if you don't mind, is where you said, the road has taught me that people just want to know how to live or how to escape from living. Show me the best way to live or give me a fantasy away from it. I chose the former, and it will always be my platform. I love that. And maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think that even for me, I love music, and sometimes it is an escape. Maybe it's something I don't want to think about or I don't want to deal with, and it's like, okay, for this 60 minutes, this CD is on, I don't have to think about it. It's almost like you're in another world. And I think that's part of the thing where people connect with music so well. But I just wanted to get more of your thoughts on that. I thought that's an awesome quote.
Absolutely. Originally, it came in under the context of, we were talking about, the industry and sales and the fact that, people are privy to hear the whole album before they buy it, something that never really existed before. Record companies don't have a monopoly on the media, or at least not as much as they used to. And so people have the ability to choose or to get your album for free. They can find a way to get your album for free and be completely okay with it. And the only thing that makes them want to purchase is that they want to either support you or what's going on around you. They want to be a part of it. They don't want to just spectate it and download it for free. They want to actively participate in your plight of expression. And so, my philosophy is that we're going to find that two types of music is going to be successful now. One is going to be the music both music pieces or sides or parts are going to give you an escapism from your life. But one is going to give you tools to see life better and greater, and to articulate your pain and to help you through your journey and to give you faith and to give you hope. And then other music is going to give you fantasy that is going to give you the ability to forget your life. It has nothing to do with your life. This is money, and this is sex, and this is what it is, and a weekend's done, a weekend's gone, and they're splurging on Monday, and you got to go back at the construction company and knock in some more drywall. So both are going to give you an escapism, but one's going to pour into the quality of your life, and the other one, which is just as valuable, is going to give you a way out of it. And those are going to be the only two sides that are going to find profit. And my life, my DNA, chooses one side. Now, it doesn't mean that the other side doesn't have a value. It's just not my way. It's just not my road. It's just not what I'm here for. And so that's what I was articulating in it, that one gives you an escape away from life, and one gives you the tools to build life.
Mm. Wow. Well, yeah, I had to bring that up because when I read it, I was like, people need to hear this. I love that quote. I thought that was really cool. I kept thinking about it after I read it. So I was like, okay, that's one thing I'm going to bring up when we talk.
Oh, man, thanks, fellas.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, definitely. And with your CD, with What Love's All About, I know that you collaborated primarily with the producer Mano.
Mano Haynes.
Mano? Yes.
Absolutely. Mano Haynes is by far my personal favorite producer, and I say that without biting my tongue. There's a lot of amazing producers, but in studying, you talk about the sound of the 70s, you talk about the sound of the 60s, you talk about your Earth, Wind and Fire, you talk about them, the record label not wanting to choose Quincy for Michael because he was a jazz guy, and you talk about those artist producer combinations. Mano comes from that school. He comes from the not popular producer school, but from the timeless. We're going to take every nook and cranny and we're going to paint this canvas perfectly around the words that you carve. And so for that reason, my biggest prayer to God was that I would release a timeless record, and that every bit of music that I release into the marketplace, my kids and my kids' kids can listen to it and feel inspired by it, and so you need a partner, you need a person who can equally articulate that. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have fun, but it means that in the core of me, you're going to know that I was here to make the world better, and so Mano is the perfect complement producer to that equation, not only in his music, but the structure of how he does business. And I appreciate that, that through fate and consequence, I had the opportunity to move with such an amazing producer and produce this amazing work. I do love it myself.
Wow. Yes, I do too. Definitely. It is, it's definitely the jam. And it's funny you say that about timeless music, because I was just having a conversation with one of my friends about that the other day, and how I was thinking, okay, what songs now am I going to look back on, 20 years from now and say, oh, that was a classic. Or this. And it's sad to say, not really that many out there. And now a lot of these songs that you hear on the radio, they're not what we would call timeless, at least in my opinion. And when I was listening to your album, to me, it takes you on a journey. That's kind of how I felt. In the beginning, it's upbeat, and then it kind of has like a little slow groove in there in the middle, and then it gets kind of serious and deep towards the end. And it was interesting because when I was reading the credits, I was surprised that Mano had produced all of the songs, because a lot of times you have art or producers, and I won't mention any names, but even producers that I like, and as soon as you put the CD on, oh yeah, they produced this whole thing, because it's just, they have that style and it works for them, but that's, pretty much their thing, and that's it. But I love how this CD has so many different styles, and I feel like you could just put it on as anybody could take something from it and say, okay, I like this song, I like that song, no matter, what type of music. They have a couple of the songs I even kind of felt like a little bit of a bluegrass kind of feel to it. So, it's just,
absolutely,
it's everywhere. And I feel like it's from a place of soul, and it's not like you all just sit down and say, okay, we're going to make this type of song, we're going to make that type of song. And it's just a really cohesive album. I love it. And one of the songs. Go ahead.
No, please continue, because it just jumped up a point in me about how specific we were about that. But please pull up your point.
Okay.
I won't forget.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, I don't want you to forget that. No, I did have one quick thing, though. I know you had mentioned your kids earlier, and one of the songs on the album, Forever, a father song, I thought was a really, really touching song. I think for anyone who has children, or even if you don't have children, I think it's just a really touching song, really heartfelt. And what would you say at the end of the day? What is a legacy that you want to leave behind for your family, or what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered. Wow, that's huge. I want to be remembered for being the best version of myself. And in being the best version of myself, there's a clear distinction in the world that I lived in, that I was able to make and influence and give hope to, and, be influential in, in whatever stream and whatever path and whatever journey and in whatever people group that I am here to bless. You're going to see a direct change and a direct inspiration to that people group, or to those ones that wouldn't have been had not I been obedient to the best version of me. Even when people didn't understand what that best version of me was, I did it anyway, and against those odds, people were inspired to be the best version of themselves. That's the key to the legacy that I've always wanted to leave with my kids and those who I love and mentor, that they be the best version of themselves. And sometimes that takes them not being popular in the environments that they've grown up in. So they not be popular in the environments that's known them so far. And so that will be the beginning. If I could sum it up, there's some specifics, but if I could sum it up, that would be my point.
Yeah, you said a word right there when you said about basically, I like the part when you said it's unpopular sometimes. Sometimes when you have goals or when God is leading you in a direction, people can't see it. And because they don't understand it or they don't see it, then, sometimes they like to criticize it. And I think now more than ever, especially with social media and everything, it's like if, people, they, if you're not careful, they can make you feel less of a person if you're not in that popular bucket, But no, that's deep. But yeah, I definitely didn't want to forget your point too that you were about to bring up. So yeah, you can definitely say that.
And I put a little note in my head on it. It was when you were talking about the diversity of the album and the directions that Mano gives you that heart of Quincy Jones. Quincy produced all of Off the Wall and all of Thriller and all of that. And so Quincy wanted a song like My Sharona. I mean, there's documentation that shows he wanted a song like My Sharona for Michael's album because he wanted that. Every song is a key. And when Mano gave me this nugget, I'll never, and I want to credit him to this. He may have gotten it somewhere, I don't know, but he told me, and I'll give him the credit for it. Every song is a key, and that key unlocks the door to a world that's just for that song. And so when you think back to Quincy Jones wanted My Sharona, a song stylistically like My Sharona, so that he could unlock that key to that people group, to the hearts, to that media, to that, to that space. And he did. And Michael had actually written Beat It. And that was the song that they associated with the My Sharona stylings. When Quincy wanted an urban tune, he didn't just throw something because he felt good about it. They did PYT was specifically for urban radio. So when you hear PYT against the rest of the album, it was intentional. Even them jumping off of Thriller with Paul McCartney, and how melancholy that situation was. People were like, "You just came from the Off the Wall CD, and you're gonna just do a melancholy song with Paul McCartney? You had already done a Paul McCartney song on Off the Wall." And so a producer in that era did not just do music according to their feelings. They did music according to the need. And they associated the canvas that people needed in terms of the doors that needed to be open so that you could get to the hearts that you needed to get to and be the soundtrack of their lives. And so as far-fetched as I just went with Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones comparisons, okay, forgive me for that. But
No,
as far-fetched as I went there, the principle was the same. And so even in this age of digital downloads and so on and so forth, those core principles still matter. People still, there's certain things you won't hear unless it comes in a package that you can digest. There are principles that you'll never swallow if let's say Willie Nelson sung them or Bob Dylan sung them, you know, but if somebody like Luther sung it or somebody like Neo or you know, somebody you are connected to stylistically, then that door opens your heart, you know. And so all of those things are at our disposal when we're trying to create an album with messages that we want people to hear. We gotta meet them halfway, and we gotta give them as much of a transparent perspective as possible.
Wow. I love it. All right, and one thing, this is another point that I really want people to get and understand, because I think now, excuse me, we have a lot of people, a lot of artists who are functioning, I like to call it kind of like this microwave generation. I mean, you have one person that's on the charts, and maybe they're hot for a couple of weeks, and then, you know, they have an album out, and then 6 months later they're putting out another album, and it's like, okay, you didn't even give this one album that may have been good, you know, chance to live and breathe. So one thing that I was reading that I really admired about you, and basically sticking to this, was that you released 2005 your album Soul Sessions, and I was reading that you felt at that time that there wasn't the music, or around that time period, there wasn't really the music that you stood behind, or the music that you really felt passionate about and wanted to do. So you took some years back, and you said you wouldn't make another album until you felt like all of those things fell into place. And so, well, I wanted, again, like I said, I definitely want to commend you for that, because I think that's something that's definitely in the minority for a lot of artists. When you said that, it kind of reminded me of people like you know, like a Sade or somebody like that, where, you know, to me, she's somebody who's timeless too, and it's like she may take years to make an album, but when it comes out, you know, it's gonna be timeless. You can't really go back and say, okay, well, this CD wasn't good or that one wasn't good. But how hard was it? Because it's easy for my perspective and from fans' perspectives, to be on the outside and say, oh, wow, that's cool. You were able to sit back and really collect your thoughts and put out the music that you wanted to. But you being the person that lived through it and made that decision, how hard was it for you to stick to that, or was it hard at all?
Oh, the honest answer, it killed me.
Oh, really?
Carlos, it killed me, bro. Listen, you're in this age, you're in this space, and this stuff is happening around you, and you start off with peers, artists who are peers and friends who will release an album, a good album, you know, an album you would enjoy, and they'll release that album, and then from there, that album does well, awards happen, all of that goes on. You are, and then it happens again. They'll release a second album, and so you're like, wait a minute. And I think this had a lot to do with this particular first project, because we needed to make sure that it made sense all the way around. And I didn't want to release an album until I had seen enough of the country, until I had traveled enough outside of the country, that I felt like there would be people who were waiting for it. And I didn't have that in 2005. And so I would do little small things. And even on the 2005 release, has a story behind it, that I'm grateful for the people that opened those doors for me. But I just did not want to touch the stores or represent an album unless I knew without a shadow of a doubt that it was, number one, timeless, and number two, something that would open the doors I've always wanted to open. And so you kind of hold your cards and you're shaking because you're like, oh my God, time is passing, but you know you're making a masterpiece. Oh, but people don't really care that you're making a masterpiece because they just want sales and they just want to, okay, what are you doing? I'm still touring, I'm still traveling, because on the road, that's what made me. So people, songs would come right there in the middle of the moments, and it would be special. And so people knew Leon Timbo, but this whole concept of stapling an album like this is me forever. I just did not want to, and myself and Mano did not want to just, take that for granted. And so it was hard. It took everything out of me, bro. Everything. I am grateful for it, but I would be lying if I didn't say and stress, because it the whole process, and that's a whole nother interview, but the whole process, not just the 3 years, but the years with, just in the school of Tyrese and in the school of Babyface, those things taught me amazing things, and I needed all of that to produce this. But it still killed me. It's still my ego. Oh goodness, watching the BET Awards and watching the Grammys and watching this and watching that, and you're like, oh, let's go back and make the masterpiece that nobody's waiting on. You're like, okay, let's do it because we know the world needs it, even if the world doesn't know they need it. So that's what it is.
Wow. Well, I definitely thank you for, taking your time. It's like I said, I love this CD, and I wish that really a lot of artists could get that message and scream it on bullhorn or something that, it's okay, because my thing is, I don't mind even some of my favorite artists that I've, kind of grown up with over the years. When you're in that waiting period, I think as a fan, sometimes it does get frustrating because you're thinking, oh, when is this CD going to come out? But, if it's good music and it's timeless music, then I don't think that's something you can just, pop up overnight. So it doesn't have your CD doesn't have a rush sound at all, which I love. It sounds like you really took your time with making it. And it shows. It definitely shows in the music.
Thank you, bro.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I just have just a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
One of those I have is, and this is a question, I will preface this and say, this is a question that I ask everyone that I interview, but I love this question because I always get a different answer. I haven't gotten the same answer just yet. So I wanted to ask you, if you could describe your life in one song, and that could be your life as a whole or maybe your life in this period right now, what would that song be and why?
In one song, would it be my song? Or any
Oh, yeah,
song?
it could be your song or anybody else's song, right?
Wow. It's a Stevie song. Let me see if I can. Sometimes I forget the name of Stevie songs. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Or even if like a couple of lyrics to it, or
every time I hear the song, it completely makes me think about every aspect of my life. All is fair in love and gain. Two people having that.
Oh, I know what song you're talking about,
What
and I can't think of the name of it either. But I know what song you're talking about, though.
I'm in an interview. I'm telling you, I know the words to the song, but being in this interview, I cannot remember a lyric. But that would be the song of my life.
Okay. Okay. Huh.
That if I could just put my life into a song, it would be that song. So has anybody said that yet?
No. Now, I will say, I've had two other people say Stevie Wonder, but not the same song, different songs.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah,
now
so
that one's fine.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, one last question I have for you, and this is a very, very important question. Definitely would not want to wrap up this interview without asking this. But for all of your fans, if you could just tell us what events you have coming up, also where people can find you online, your website, and also on social media, where can people follow you?
Oh, absolutely. Leon Timbo, everything in terms of social media.
Okay.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. And LeonTimboLive.com is my web presence. If you were to look up LeonTimbo.com, it'll take you to Leon Timbo Live as well. And presently, we are touring concerts for social change, and that is a tour of about 7 cities from now to the rest of the year, and we're doing some dates at the top of next year. And it's an initiative that I started with some artist friends of mine, and we're going into cities of Memphis, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, Charlotte, and so I can't remember all of them, but we're going into cities, and we're connecting with nonprofit organizations. We're choosing 2 nonprofit organizations. We're choosing a filmmaker in that region, and so we're doing a film screening, and then we're doing a concert the second night in a theater in that city, and the goal is to give more to illuminate the nonprofits that we're supporting, to give more exposure to them and gain more support, whether it be financially or just really, with people supporting and really giving back. So everything from domestic abuse to sex trafficking to the plight of brown and black boys to voter registration. It's just depending on the city and the strength of the organizations in the city, we partner with those. And it's right now, myself and Shante Can, we're actually pairing, and we're getting amazing artists from those regions. Every concert is with those artists in those regions across just a complete diverse lineup of styles and genres of artists to give back to the community. And so that's a strong thing that we're doing this fall. And that's all on Leon Timbo Live as well, and doing a lot of festivals, and all of those will be on there equally as well. So come to the site; you'll always know what's going on, from the album release to this tour that's going on at this time.
Okay. Wow, even touring with a purpose. Wow, that's awesome. And that's something that's so needed, and I just wish that, a lot of other artists would do that and just jump on the bandwagon and get behind something with purpose. So I love that everything that you're doing has a purpose and a message behind it. So that's great.
Thank you, bro.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, yes, definitely. And Leon, thank you again for doing this interview with me. I really, really enjoyed it. Love the album.
Oh,
again.
man, my pleasure, Carlos.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, definitely love the album. And like I said, I will be getting the album myself on Friday. So What Love's All About, make sure you all go and pick that up. Leon Timbo, I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. And one thing, well, 2 quick things I wanted to say, too, about the album is, I was listening to it, and sometimes when I heard the first song, And when I heard "You're My Darling," and then I went back and I was looking at the track list, and I was like, I got a feeling I'm gonna like this, because usually when it's like, maybe around 15 tracks or so or less, I usually tend to like those albums more. Because to me, it's
Wow.
usually kind of very rare where you have an album where it's like, 20, 21 tracks and it's, all of them are really good. But I
Sure.
feel like this CD, and I'm not just saying this because we're doing an interview and I really want people to hear this and get this, is that, I really can just put this in and listen to it from top to bottom, not skipping a track.
Wow.
And that's the thing that I think that
Wow.
is missed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yes, it's really missed in music, and especially R&B music, I think. So, and I really can't remember the last time I did that with with an R&B album. So, definitely, everybody go pick this CD up. It's great. You will not be disappointed.
Well, I'm grateful, Carlos, and you guys. Thank you for the support. I see you in the city soon, and I'm excited. Concerts for Social Change and BeyondTimboLive.com. And Carlos, thank you again for this amazing interview.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, Leon. Definitely, I'll be keeping up with you, and definitely we'll be keeping in touch.
All right, bro.
All right. Have a good one.
You too, man.
All right.